All right, it's on, and we will get going. Let me share my screen. Just share my monitor, so I'll swap. First of all, I got the very first pull or two got cut off, so we'll look at this DPS warrior perspective, and then we'll swap to our run. So I've got the Discord screen share up. Again, if you guys hop in here, we'll get started. Let me know if there are any issues with viewing it. Just to get started here, one mistake that we made in our run is this guy was padding in, and I just must have been focused in on something else because I didn't see it, so we got more than we should. So in the future, we'll let him leave, and then we'll run into this pole. FAP on run-in, Death Wish, and it was pretty safe. There weren't any issues, so in the future we're just going to group them all up in the middle of the room, and then tanks, make sure you're facing them away. For healers, as always with all these A-bombs, you always want to make sure you're standing at max range to avoid any abilities they use, whether it be a frontal cone, a knock-up, a stun, anything like that. You always want to be standing max range, so the people that are back here, this is good. You want to be back here. And then what will happen is we kill this 4-pull, and then a couple patrols will be fought right up here at the top of the ramp. So healers, you'll want to inch up just a little bit to probably about right here, middle of the room, kind of back middle area of this grate, and stand there and just pump chain heals and single target heals into people from there. And you'll see right there, a healer moved up a little bit too early and ended up getting stunned by those guys. So this is where it gets a little bit scary. Again, just want to emphasize max range. The mobs are tanked right here on the top of the ramp, and they're always going to be faced away. And if we get grob slimes like this, it's totally fine. We'll just cleave it all down together just like we did here, with priority always being on the abomination, which I will mark with a skull. After we have picked up all the various different patrols, like there's another patrol again fighting it here, so no one run down early and line of sight healers, and then healers, just make sure you're always staying back at max range. You'll see some of these healers are inching up a little bit. This is not good. You want to make sure you stay back. And then per usual, just turning it away, facing it the other direction. Okay, so here's what I was talking about, Ruckles, is need to probably go forward 30 seconds. It is. Let me try. Okay, I'll do something to try to fix it in a sec, if you'll just give me a moment. So this guy right here is the one that walks through the room. And Ruckles, I mean, you're familiar, right, with the guy that comes up like this. Exactly, yeah, he comes through the room and then he pats across. The biggest thing is we really want to wait to pull this guy until we're all down here in this room, because in our run, that guy was a retcher, and then because we pulled him back so far, right when he got to the top of the ramp, he was ready to use his ability. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that VOD, because that was just at the start, but see, I swapped my scene over a little bit too late. But what you'll see here is this is the retcher that does that long patrol, and he just got pulled, and right now he's just getting to us, and then he instantly does the knock-up as we get to the top of the, as it gets to the top of the ramp. So yeah, we just want to delay that one and fight it down in the room. Outside of that, it's totally fine. And then here's another situation where all the DPS are going to run in. So healers, max range, once again, you're just standing back here in kind of the doorway area. Grob slimes, if they come, we'll just pick them up and kill them. They're very easy. And that was the only real thing I wanted to point out at this initial start area. All this was fine. I mean, our mage roster was very low, so this took a long time to kill. We had to really kite back think the dense dynamite usage throughout the run, not just here, but throughout, was lacking. So I'm going to continue to audit that and make sure people bring and use their dense dynamite. So anyways, we kite that back, we kill it, we all do the skip, that's fine. The only thing I want to mention here is we do the skip, and I pause because I'm just trying to make sure that no clown ass pulls the 4-pack, right? So we want to delay pulling this guy if he's in the room. Sometimes we can pull him ahead of time, deal with him in that previous room, but if he's in this room, in this situation, just wait until everyone clears the 4-pack behind us before pulling this. Because what would have been a disaster is, like, we have all these warriors here that are running ahead of me and they're inching up. So like right here, for example, these warriors here are basically running in, and you shot that and pulled that, but obviously I know that you're getting pressured by these people running in. But what would have been a disaster here is if we did that and then some, last minute Andy then ass pulls that while we're fighting a Retcher. That would have been really bad. So let's wait to fight this mob. Either we fight this mob in the previous room, or we wait till everyone clears that 4-pack. And then this was all good. I would say the only thing is, like, if this guy's in a window like this, go ahead and get the pats out of the way. Get them knocked out, to whatever capacity we can. Because we end up going 4-pull, FAP cooldown's up, so this is fine, but it would have been nice to just deal with that Retcher. And there are basically like 3 patrols here. There's one that's going to go down the slime, there's one that's going to wrap around like that, and then there's this guy who kind of does this arc, basically. So there are 3 different patrol options, and then obviously the 4-pack. Ideally, we deal with all those 4 different pulls, and then we'll cross after that. This is a good point here for mages. For mages that, want to blink across so they don't take the mana and health hit. What I would recommend is you don't have to cut it so close by blinking over here, and I'll show you in a moment. So we continue to do the patrols, we continue to kill them, all good stuff there. And then we're ready to advance. And so here you'll see, like, this pull it's pretty close to the slime here. But like right here, this is comfy, So you can just blink across right here. See, I always cross here because it's safer. And then I immediately bandage, and then I can just run up like that. So consider, if you want just a little bit more comfort, is crossing here, especially as someone that's blinking across. So moving on, we did a good job here with our AoE taunt usage. This was mine, the next was Bell, and anyways, it works really well. As far as the dense dynamite, I've kind of reconfigured the group organization. So we're going to do on these, I'm going to call 1 through 4 will be this one, and then 5 through 8 will be the next, and we'll just alternate 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then ending with 1 through 4. So the only thing here is I would say that know if you're next on AoE taunt. Bell's not in here. That's not ideal. But you'll see right here is that Bell's up on this one, and I'm just strafing back and forth waiting on him. He's over here. And then I say put shield on because I see he's dual wielding, and then he just pauses and stands there while he puts his shield on. So we just need to know if you're next up and be leading the pack there. A little bit quicker to respond. Correct, yes. So next one will be Glizzy, and then Riggs, you'll be that one. And then I think it's Stevie for the final, just like we did here. I think the mages could maybe be a little bit more conscious of their AoE threat there. Like Malediction was just pumping into that, and can easily get yourself killed by doing that. I mean, obviously I don't want you guys holding back too much. Like mage damage there, flame strike spam is a huge source of damage to kill those packs, but if it means you die in the process, like 5 pulls into Nax, it's definitely not what we want. So I think that this is all fine. Again, that will be glizzy. The only thing I want to mention about these pulls is when we're pulling this retro back, these pulls here have a huge aggro radius. Like, you'll aggro this pull from like here, if not even further back. So what I do as a tank, I just stand here, I wait for it to come in to a safe distance, I'm going to taunt it, then I'm going to face it away. So if everyone could just be patient, let these mobs come in. Of course, this is a retcher, so people, as they see that we're letting it pad in, everyone should have, range DPS heals should have fell back a bit there. Like, do you see this, everyone being at half health? That's a close proximity AoE knock-up and huge damage. And you can avoid that just by standing further away. So my point earlier about max ranging these pulls, that's kind of why. That's what you don't want to have happen. So this one is Riggs, I believe. And if not this week, it will be next. Yep, it's on Riggs. It's got the AoE taunt out. Or being controlled pretty nicely. The only thing I would say, Riggs, is that, like, if you're going to AoE taunt... oh, you got slowed here. Yeah. But... not even charge. It's not even, you don't necessarily need to charge. You just need to walk in first, and then we'll all be on your ass. And if we're all here, then it's just RNG. Because, see, I walk it in, but I don't get it. You know what I mean? So it's not like you lead in and you get it. It's just an RNG thing. But as a tank, what you do need to do as someone leading is you run in and you keep running through to the back lines so it hits everyone. Because, see, here you are slowed, but then once you get here and get the AoE taunt off, you're just kind of stationary here. And what would have been ideal is if you had the AoE taunt out and you kept moving and drug this clump onto these two, and then everything was here. To it, exactly, yeah. Because what happens to with these mobs, they're mostly like casters, and some of them AoE, or some of them physical attack, but they will follow you. They'll like, if you put the AoE taunt debuff on them, they'll walk with you, which makes it really easy to clump them up. And then this pull was very easy here. Stevie did a good job of toggling shield on, and see, he kind of runs in all the way, and this pack's easier, it's more consolidated than the others, but nonetheless did a very good job there at getting them clumped up and controlled. So Patchwork, I think, was fine. I totally forgot about Razorhide, and so we'll make sure we do that next week, because if we do, we can pump up Bell's threat a bit and do more damage and ultimately get a faster kill. The only thing to mention here for Patchwork is, from a healing perspective, is, you know, make sure that you know what your healing assignment is, and that's the only person you're pressing the heal button on. The melee are intentionally dipping and lowering their health, so make sure you're never healing a melee DPS. If there's an accidental chain heal bounce, you know, that's okay. We can adjust and get that fixed, but just make sure we're not hitting any of our melee DPS with a direct heal. And then the only other point to mention from a healing perspective is make sure you're mana potting early and often. I know that when I looked at the logs, there was only one mana pot usage by almost everyone, except for 3 people, and 3 people mana potted twice. So really important, because what you'll see here is, I'm going to skip forward, there's a little over 1 minute, there's 1:30, we're about 2 minutes into the fight here, but look, I mean, every healer is completely except this guy, who he is one of the 3 that double mana potted. But look at him, this guy was our top healer of the night, and this is why, right? His cooldown usage is optimal. Make sure, too, that, like, obviously the melee are intentionally dipping here in the slime to lower their health, so make sure we don't have any healing stream totems or anything like that. All you want down is Wind Fury and Strength of Earth. So moving forward through here, no one died. So just a comment on Rage, he died there because what will happen is Patchwork is going to Hateful Strike the guy with the highest health value in the top 4 threat. So what happens here is Rage, he doesn't dip here, so he has full health, And then if you look at the threat meter, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Jaren right now, but then Rage will pass him here in a moment. There it is. Rage passes him. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Rage is now a potential hateful strike target. He has full health. So Glizzy eats a hateful. Bell is going to eat a hateful. Actually, no, Rage he probably flasked and just had more health than Bell because he's super geared. But you'll see there, he's 4th in threat. He had the highest health value, and Patchwork one-shots him. So it's not any like mystery or secret how people die on Patchwork. They simply are in the top 4 threat, and they have a high health value. This is why we're dipping. This is why you're not healing any melee DPS. So moving on, we can finish Patchwork up. All of this was really good. I think that the only thing to mention on this trash is that you don't intercept the mobs when they're coming towards us. You save your intercept in case you get knocked in the air. And also you don't want to intercept stun them in a bad spot. So no intercepting unless you get knocked up in the air, and then rogues kick to interrupt their spell cast. But we did very nicely on all of this trash, so not a whole lot to comment on there. It's just make sure we get these 3. They're all stacked up under the roof. They're all facing away like this, and we're interrupting their spells, and we're not intercepting them on run-in. So for Grobulus, this is another fight that went pretty well. There was 2 small issues. So issue number 1 was where the mutating injection guy ran. So if we're doing it up here and you get the debuff, you need to run away this way towards Gluth, because we're dragging him this way, everyone's moving this way. So if you get debuff, you run away towards Gluth, and then you get dispelled out there on the end of that platform. What you'll see here happens is we have a mutating injection on Rogue God QT, and then you'll see he runs here, right? So he runs directly in the line that the healers are going in. So he's just about to grief all of the healers. He gets dispelled there, see? Very bad. Right, so this is why this ended up getting sketch. I was a little bit slow to move the boss as well, and those are the only 2 mistakes of this fight, is where Rogue God ran for mutating, and one of my poison clouds I moved a little bit slow from. But you'll see right now, all of those healers are now standing in the position where he just dropped the cloud, and someone else here is actually going to die to it, and that's what happens. So some people thought extra people were dispelling aside from Dunan. No, that wasn't the case. Dunan was the only person that dispelled. Some people thought it got dropped down below, which griefed us on like the Z-axis. No, that's not what happened either. It was simply that one mistake of Rogue God running to the wrong spot. So this fight, we just had 1 death. I for some reason, in the moment, I felt like it was a lot worse because the raid health was really, really low, given how easy Grobulus is. So that kind of threw me off guard, but we did only lose 1 person there. So right now, we've lost 1 person to, granted, while I do say Rogue God, he did the fight incorrectly. He ran to the wrong spot. Someone else, his death was avoidable there if he just was a little bit more smart and conscientious of his positioning. So this death is somewhat on him, and then Rage, our only other death here, was on him for not dipping in the slime. So at this point, we're pretty mistake-free as a group, aside from some individual misplays on about 3 people. This fight went well. Ruse did a very good job of Tremor Toteming. You'll see here, Shamans, just take note, for those that aren't helping with Earthbinds, you need to just stand out of melee range. It's not like this crazy, 41 yards, frame perfect type positioning. It's simply like an intimidating shout ability in a radius around him. So if you're out here at about 30 yards, totally fine. Fear window's open. He instantly trimmers. Perfect. So guys, not only on Gluth, but think about the Death Knight Trash as well that does the AoE fear. You don't want to just have trimmer down waiting for a tick. That's never the correct play. The correct play is always to stare at the boss or the mob or whatever, stare at your players in your raid, wait for the fear icon, and right when you see the fear, you instantly press the trimmer button. And that means stopping your current cast. So ideally what you have is a macro that's just /stop casting, and then on the next line, /cast trimmer totem. And anytime you visually see a fear go out, you press that button. Interrupts your cast, immediately trimmers, the trimmer immediately pulses on drop, and it immediately breaks the fear. And you'll see after his trimmer pulses, he's back to his normal totems, Wind Fury, Strength of Earth there. So there's not a whole lot to say on Thaddeus. I mean, we're all very familiar with how the shit hit the fan here, so to speak. What I've done, because I think this is important, very easy fix, and you know, there's not a whole lot to overanalyze here, but what I have done is I've changed the group composition a bit to make this very, very easy and face roll moving forward. So if you all can you see the spreadsheet right now? Okay, cool. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we will always do, on Thaddeus, red right. When we're fighting Thaddeus, we'll always do red right. That is the strategy. That is minus on the right, also known as red right, also known as the positioning that triggers 90% of the classic WoW community, red right on Thaddeus. As far as the mini bosses are concerned, I've organized the groups to make this very easy, very face roll here, where it's just evens right, odds left. So we'll walk up here, it'll be red right on Thaddeus. For mini bosses, evens right, odds left. And there's not like any exception like, oh yeah, evens right, odds left, except for these people do these little changes or whatever. Nope, it's just evens right, odds left. And then Bell and I have both installed a weak aura that, as long as a person on each platform has the weak aura, it gives you the health frame, so I can track that. I can announce the stop DPS calls and such. So the communication moving forward on Thaddeus will be very, very limited. There won't be a whole lot to say. All it will be, we'll walk up to the boss, okay, evens right, odds left, on Thaddeus, red right, and then we'll pull. Nothing else will be said during. I'm not going to continuously call it out throughout the run or throughout the boss kill. I'm not going to keep saying red right or blue run through or anything like that. You're just going to be, everyone's going to be held responsible to know it is red right, and that's it. And that'll be the call. So this all went fine. Sonny, he pulled aggro off Bell right at the start on the mini bosses. So just want to remind everyone, especially at the start of the mini bosses, tanks oftentimes don't have a whole lot of rage, if any. Threat's going to be low. Be very, very mindful of your threat at the start. There's nothing to gain here on the mini bosses. You know, it's not actually killing the boss faster. We can get to the boss faster, but at the end of the day, worst case scenario is someone dying above all else. It's okay if the mini boss kills are a little bit slower, if it means everyone lives. Yeah, I've got it, you've got it, and we're good, right? As long as you've installed it, I've already installed it, so... Nope. You just install it, and it's going to be a little health frame, so you'll obviously want to position it somewhere that you're comfortable with, but, like, even then, like, I just need you to have it running so I can make the call. Hold on one second. Do you guys know if a Ren buff's going out here at 45? Oh, someone said 50. Oh, someone says 46. Oh, fuck. Hold on, I gotta... Well, Kerp did confirm here. Or someone did. World buff coordinator. 846. Cool, thank you. Let me catch this real quick. Yeah, thank you. I did. I had an alarm set for it. This guy signed up for our run. Gear's looking a little sus, though. Rend in 41 seconds. Well, grab the buff if you need to, and then we'll get right back to it. I guess as a general point that we don't have to look at the VOD to see or know walking. It's just that I think that obviously really unfortunate that we died and lost buffs so early in the run on so many people, which greatly hurt our kill power and our overall run speed. But from a cleanliness execution type perspective, we did a really, really good job given we had no world buffs. I mean, we one-shot every boss, minimal deaths, all things considered, with no world buffs, that is. So I was quite impressed with our performance despite the bullshit that happened so early in the run. And we've, like I said, I've readjusted the way the groups are designed to make it super easy and pretty brainless, and then also kind of cleaning up and changing the communication a bit. So here I don't have a whole lot to say other than the way these pulls are killed. There was a warlock that was focusing slimes. I know in some guilds, particularly the more kind of boomer strat, is to have casters focus and kite these slimes. Completely unnecessary. We just need the casters in the normal kill order. Skull X, square, you know, kind of the traditional order as it's set up in the sheet. The other thing too is, I mean, these are like 5 pulls, so you should really just be bombing flame strikes and other AoE spells into these, especially on pull, that is. So no need to be like searing painting here or anything like that. No need to be single target focusing the slimes, just AoE when it makes sense to do so, and then focus in normal kill order. You'll see here's the situation I was talking about where I'm just like chasing this down as Zash continues to searing pain spam, and it's completely unnecessary because now we all have to backtrack and we don't get to cleave, so it's slower and it's a DPS loss. So here, all of this was totally fine. All right, we did a good job through here. I'm not gonna waste time just on things that went well. Noth went very well. So this is here's kind of a symptom though of us not having world buffs and not having the kill power, is you really only want to ever get one blink, and on that one blink your casters hit escape, they let the ignite drop, and then they lip, and that 6-second window of lip allows me to reacquire threat and get the boss on me. The problem is when you get 2 blinks, your lip's going to be on cooldown. So, in this situation here, the blink window's open, you'll see, he blinks, it's on a warlock, the warlock will lip, and then Ruckles FDs, and I get it back. And then, in that 6-second lip window of Zash, I am able to reacquire threat. But then, if I skip forward a little bit, what you'll see here is, right as he's almost dead, the second blink window is open, and he actually blinks at 3%, 2%, and now Malediction, he doesn't have his lip up because it's second blink, and then he gets one shot. And does go back to me after, so it's only 1 death there, but that is a direct symptom of our, or a direct outcome rather, of our kill power because we lost buffs. If we don't lose buffs, he doesn't die there. So classic theme in Nax is winner wins more, loser loses more. So if we lose our buffs and we lose a fight, we don't do well, people die, then we continue to lose, kind of snowballing off that initial loss. Heigen was good. I don't have anything to say here. We killed it before the dance. Again, like, this is another example of how I thought our raid did well. We killed Heigen pre-dance with no world buffs on, like, everyone, which is actually really impressive. So, continuing on, our Lotheb was a bit of a clincher at times, but we managed to one-shot him again, despite no buffs. That's another really impressive feat. There are guilds that struggle killing Lotheb with world buffs. So for our run to be able to accomplish this, I was very satisfied with that. I've made some configuration changes to my add-ons to have better visibility of this frame. I've disabled some of these timers. I've relocated this frame, so my calls on the Corrupted Mind, the healing order, will be a lot cleaner and crisper moving forward. What I would ask for you individually, if you're a healer and you have engineering, then make sure you have the recombobulator. If you don't know what the recombobulator is, major recombobulator, it's a trinket that dispels polymorph. But the real benefit of the trinket is that it also, when dispelling the polymorph, or regardless rather, when you use it, it has two different effects. One, it dispels the polymorph, and two, it does a heal. Now, obviously, no one's polyed, but the heal effect does work. And the benefits of the heal effect are, one, it doesn't count as your heal. It doesn't put you on cooldown. And two, it scales 1-to-1 with healing. So that heal, the major recombob is like a 400 heal. But if you've got 1,000 healing power, then that's suddenly like a free 1,500 heal you can just press on the tank when everyone's on cooldown and you're freaking out. This is another thing where I saw a number of people did have engineering, but there were only, I think, 2 recombobulator uses, and we're running 12 healers, so really that has the potential to be a huge save. So just make sure, if you're a healer, go get a major recombobulator, and you're a healer with engineering specifically, make sure you bring the recombobulator, major recombobulator, very important. And I think the communication here was just a little bit scuffed, which made it a little bit scarier than it needed to be, and also the lack of world buffs is another thing to consider. But don't want to overanalyze it, because I thought we did well, all things considered, and with buffs and a little bit tighter comms, we'll clean that up. All this stuff was really good. Liked everything that went on here. I don't have any criticism here. What you'll see here, though, is this pull. It's just how small, very small details can really screw us over. So the shamans, here's another situation similar to Gluth, where it's just a melee radius fear. So you just want to outrange the fear. And when you see the fear go out, you immediately press the trimmer button. That same macro, that stop casting. So there's the fear. You see it. Intimidating shout. The shamans instantly trimmer, and everyone gets out of the fear except the one guy I moved out of a shaman group for Lotheb. So I moved Glizzy out to put a warlock in my group on Lotheb for Blood Pact, and I totally forgot to move Glizzy back into my group. So now he doesn't have a shaman, he doesn't have a trimmer, he runs out, he fears this. This ultimately ends up resulting in 9 deaths. So we were previously just cleaning up this wing, perfect performance, excellent trimmer totems by the shamans, all good things all around. And then one tiny mistake of not changing one person's group results in 9 deaths. So what we've done here is we have built out the raid comp where I'm just going to have a warlock in my group the entire time. And that will never happen. So these are things that are just kind of some learning pains, some growing pains of our new raid comp. And, you know, from a process perspective, we can just configure things differently to where we don't have to shuffle mid-run. We don't have to remember the shit. There's nothing that we accidentally forget about. It's just, yeah, it's kind of dummy-proof, so to speak. So you'll see there's the result of that. Unfortunate. Here is very important for the shamans to understand the positioning here, but also the warriors. We're going to run into this group, and when melee DPS run in, we're going to take this line up against this railing over here, and we're going to stand about right here. And when we're getting here, we're going to body pull these guys, and they're going to run at us. And we're going to patiently wait here for them to come to us. So we're going to run in, we're going to hug the wall, patiently wait right here. Like Bells is too aggressive, he's too far forward. You will body pull the other groups doing this, so you want to just patiently wait back here. And then shamans, what you want to do is you don't want to position here. This is too close, you're going to get feared. You need to be back here in this doorway. And ideally what you want to do is if we're fighting here, then you're positioned back in the doorway, but like more this way. And I'll show you why. So if you're, like, let's say we're fighting here, just like this. If you're a shaman standing right here, you're outranging them for the fear. That's good. 2 is when people get feared, they're going to run this way. And by being here, you have built-in reaction time to see them getting feared and then instantly trimmer break it. If you're back here in the corner, then they're running away from you and your trimmer might not hit them. But if you're positioned more aggressively forward at an angle, then you can see it happen. And what you'll see, here's an example. Feared, right? And look at them, they're running this way. So if the shamans were here, they can perfectly cut them off with the trimmer. But instead, the rogues run out into Africa, and then they aggro 2 extra groups. We have a good series of AoE lip taunting, which help corral these mobs. But the downside is, because I had to do that, I didn't have AoE taunt up for Resuvius. So that actually really hurts us. And Bell, I think, used his AoE taunt as well. So our 2 tanks then don't have AoE taunt for Resuvius, because it's going to be in less than 10 minutes. So that is all because shaman positioning was incorrect there. So just to recap from a better angle, we're standing here, we're fighting the mobs here, and then the shamans are positioned in the doorway here. Max range, outranging the fear, and ready to insta-chop trimmer when we run off. So moving on, these are all the same thing. Once again, think about positioning. If I'm running in like this, the mobs are going to run at me and we're going to fight here, right? So if you're a shaman, you would want to run on this line and stand right here. So then when I get feared in this direction, once again, insta-trimmer break. So you want to be always at a diagonal in a forward aggressive positioning. And what you'll see here is, here's how this screws us, is the shamans really should have been like over here, and instead they're back here. So watch this. These guys get fear. Once again, the rogues, they're not warriors. They can't break a fear. Then they run into the next group and body pull. But if the shamans were here, you could have broken that fear instantly. So positioning, positioning, positioning. Max range, but at a forward aggressive angle. Yeah, of course. Correct, yeah. The thing is, though, is, okay, so let's say right up here, where we just had this perspective here. It's advantageous for everyone to be standing there, like aggressively, because if you think about it, you really want to be running ahead and water walking as we're moving on. You never want to be, as a healer, trailing. You know, the healers ideally are always positioned, like if we're fighting here, but we've got to go this way next, then as a healer, while we're doing the setup and there's no damage going out, you should just go ahead and get ahead, even as a priest, for example, right? Because if you're trailing, that's how your tank dies, basically, or a warrior dies. Yeah, sure, dude, no problem. All right, moving on. This is just a matter of, so the stable area it's just kind of a little bit of a clincher, because what happens is you pull these horses, and what they do is they charge someone, and when they do the charge, it's a complete threat drop. But what they also do when doing the threat drop is they do an AoE radius trample, where it just hits everyone for a fuckload of physical damage. So what we really need to do here is fan out as range DPS and caster DPS as much as possible. So like right here, what you'll see is really bad is everyone's just stacked right here. And so these mobs are getting so much value out of the trample because everyone is stacked, when really range DPS and healers should all be kind of fanned out like that. So then if it charges over here, the majority of the raid is able to avoid that damage. So here you'll see it's just like huge trample damage on everyone. And this is where, like, again, just to emphasize loser loses more, is if you've died and lost world buffs, you just die to the trample. You just fall over, like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead. Like, all these people are just getting insta-clapped because, like, they died earlier in the run, they don't have world buffs, they don't have the ability to survive that type of damage. And so that's part of the issue with losing world buffs, but also it's not like world buffs are kind of the end-all be-all. We can also just position a bit more efficiently, a bit more smartly to avoid the damage altogether. And so the rest of this was completely fine. Resuvius, I don't want to get into Resuvius because I've already connected with the priest and we're going to have a VOD review type session that's in depth more. Kind of day of, so I don't want to waste you all's time with that. The only thing to really note here is that if you're a melee DPS, you need to bring a masterwork target dummy or you need to bring a love fool. And if you don't have one, I bring 10 love fools every raid. Riggs brings 10 of them. Like, there are people that can give you a love fool. And what it's going to do is it's going to prevent us from losing melee DPS on this fight. I mean, it's Resuvius, when he's not getting parry hasted, the guy has a 3-second swing timer. So think of it this way. Okay, Resuvius is a 3-second swing timer. If we have 10 melee DPS, throw down a love fool, Resuvius is literally attacking target dummies for 30 seconds. It's easy. The fight's easy as fuck. You just have each mob will tank the Resuvius for approximately 10 seconds, right? So they have overlapping taunts for 10 seconds. That's 40 seconds of ad tanking. Then 10 dummies in the right spot. That's 30 seconds. So there we have a 1:10 fight of him never attacking or killing a single person. And the beauty of this is when you overlap 2 taunts and then you blanket dummy at the end, it makes it literally impossible for people to get one shot, die, and lose their buffs. So there weren't many people that brought dummies. I think we probably maybe got a total of 3 dummies were thrown down, and they were also positioned very poorly, because what happens is Riggs will throw a perfect dummy here, and that's good. It kills it. Resuvius kills it, but then the next dummy gets thrown here at his angle, and Resuvius like repositions, and then he's facing on all the melee, and then the melee are parrying him, so then his swing timer goes from 3 seconds to instant. And then he just starts mowing through the entire raid. So it's not enough to just bring the dummy and throw it down wildly. If you're going to bring a dummy, if you're going to use a dummy, you have to place it in the correct spot. You cannot afford to turn Resuvius towards the melee. If you turn Resuvius around with a shitty dummy placement, you might as well have not thrown it at all. And you'll see we're on cooldown here on all 3 mobs with the final one tanking. So here you'll see we have debuff there, debuff there, debuff there. So this is the last guy tanking. So at this point, we have 1 mob tanking. If this heartbeats, we're fucking dead, right? Like we're on a prayer right here, just hoping circle doesn't heartbeat. So what you do to give yourself a little bit more comfort, a little bit more freedom here, feeling like you're not going to die, is at this point when you're on the last mob and he's the only one tanking, you just throw dummies right on his feet. And then Resuvius will just start hitting the dummies. And that goes on for 30 seconds. So right here, we're on the last mob. I make the call. I see the heartbeat. I make the call for a dummy. Riggs places his dummy here perfectly. Now Resuvius is just hitting this dummy. See, he hasn't even killed it yet. He's still just waiting to swing because it's in the right spot. Then he finally kills it, and then the next dummy goes out, but it's here, right? Now watch him turn around, and then parrying, and now his swing is instant. And then moving on. So I'll get with the priests on how I want them to position, how I want them to set it all up. But for melee DPS, like, you've got to get a loveful from me or Riggs or a masterwork target dummy, and you've got to throw it down in the right spot, which is right on the ad's feet. Then all this trash, it went well. I mean, you know, you got to be careful when it's double axes. If you don't have world buffs, you cannot get spun on by 2 axes. And one thing that I'll do oftentimes is I'll just roll a greater stone shield pot here in this area. Like if we're going to double pull 2 axes, I'll just pop a greater stone shield pot, so I'm not worried about the physical damage bursting me down. Gothic went well. This is another situation where, I mean, we have a deathless Gothic here, and a lot of guilds, a lot of raid groups, when they lose world buffs, like, they really struggle on Gothic. Wasn't the case here. We had excellent mind control, or rather, excellent shackle control from the priest, and then the DPS was, it was nice and kind of consistent and got us through here. And I think we only ended up with like 1 shackle at the very end, which was really good. So we go through here. All this trash was really good. Really clean positioning, really clean execution. The only thing I want to talk about on Outer Ring is that anytime that you're running on these slimes, just run right on the edge. If you run on the edge, without dipping, of course, that is how you can avoid all the patrols. So the patrols, like the Vindicators that go through the middle, the Spiders in the other wing that go through the middle, they can always be avoided by being right on the edge of the slime. It's a very specific positioning, but you can avoid it by being right on that edge. Then here, all the pulling was good. We did a little bit of a wide peepo there. Okay, so the only thing to talk about on 4 Horsemen is just the melee DPS. I saw we had a couple melee DPS that went back into Mograine incorrectly and died because their marks hadn't fallen off. So just be mindful of your mark count, your debuff, and do not run in. And Ruckles, are you here still? Could you do me a favor on this pull and you lead in? Because as a tank, I'm always scared if I'm the first one to run in. In this situation, like, all 4 horsemen are running at me, and that's how you get instantly one-shot as a tank. So I would like for you to step forward and just trigger the aggro, and then you can fall back, and I'll pass you. But I just don't want to be, the guy that body pulls is all. Yeah, that's perfect. That would be fantastic. And what you could even do to make it even easier, now I'm thinking about this in real time, is that, like, Glizzy as a bear could walk in and initiate it, and right when they're coming, like, you could walk over at the start and stand about right here, right? Glizzy walks in and initiates the body pull, and right when it's body pulled, you shoot Thane, so he comes on this line. And then I can just run and cut him off, and you'll pull him halfway to the spot already, instead of me having to run in and then do all this backtracking. Not really. No, it's not a big deal. You know, like, 2 people sappered. I saw 3 sappers, like... I mean, in a speed run, 100%. You know, guild run, 100%. But, like, GDKP Pug, eh. Yeah, I think it just wasn't drug out quite fast enough here. Like, Blamo is just sitting around in the middle a little bit. And then, yeah, Riggs kind of does this right angle instead of just running immediately. Like, you just need to strafe run, you know, strafe jump. Yeah, the backpedaling just didn't get it away fast enough. It was, I mean, that's max range though too, right? Like, that's fucking, I'm surprised even saying that, but 100% way to avoid that from happening is just dragging it a little bit quicker. And I realized he was also being conservative, like he didn't want to give the boss his back, so I get it, but... Okay, so all this was fine. The only thing is that, like, DPS players, just understand what we're doing here from a kill rotation perspective is we run in to the left corner. Let me go back to the start and I'll draw it kind of big picture here. Okay, so DPS players run in, DPS Thane here. Kill Thane, he dies. You run across the room, and then you're going to 4 marks on Mograine. And he will either, if we have world buffs, could potentially die, or he doesn't die, and then you run here to the safe spot, and as soon as a mark goes out, you run to Blamo, which we did. We did this good, right? It's this, you know, just like it is in the, not in the sheet, because the sheet applies to tanks and healers, but this is exactly what we did is we went Thane, went Mograine, safe, and then Blamo. And then after... you kill, or after you get to your, 3 to 4 marks on Blamo, you go back to safe spot, and then you run in here to Zeliak. I saw it was 3 or 4 people went from Blamo, and then they went back to Mograine before their debuff dropped off, and then they died. So just know your strat here is Thane, burn it down. Then we make the journey across the room to Mograine. You go to about 4 marks here on Mograine. And my perspective is good here because although I am tanking, I'm running in the DPS path. And what you'll see here is, here's my mark timer, right? It's going out in 2 seconds. So I'll take a pause here. I let it go out because no point in walking in and taking an unnecessary mark. Just a quick pause, goes out. Now I'm going to go in. We're going to let this go to 3 to 4 marks. And then once you get your 4 marks here, back to safe. Again, watch the timer, let that go out, and then into Zeliak. Now I, as a tank, I run along the back wall here, which is fine. And then casters, here's your safe spot here. And the reason why we lost a couple tanks here and it started to get a little bit hectic is we had a really bad series of double resist in 2 different corners. So we got worst case scenario on RNG, and we still managed to recover with very minimal deaths. And if it makes you feel any better, I did an unbuffed 4 Horsemen with Insidious this week, and I mean, we ended up losing 3-4 people. They lost like 20 plus. So in kind of like drawing some parallels between the 2 unbuffed raids, we performed significantly better. Our execution was significantly cleaner. And so just to give you all a look here, as you DPS or Blamo, you come back here. You're watching this mark timer, and then if you're a caster, you run like this. If you're a melee DPS, you run like this. So here my marks are done, my Zeliak are gone, I'm waiting on this to go out. Ticks out. And then as a tank, what you can do here is what I'll do is I'll target the boss to see if they need me. Right now we've got the caster still figuring it out. But I'll target the boss, and then I'll target the tank off of it. So see my cursor down here? I've got the boss targeted. I see that's the tank. So then I click Rage, and I see he's at 2 marks. I know I don't need to relieve him because he's at 2 marks. But he's going to be at 3 in just a sec, and that's my cue to go in. So rage is at 2, waiting on this. Rage is at 3, now I'm headed in. And this line is fine as well. You can either go around the platform or you can hug right here and get you in the same way. No, it doesn't. Like, dude, Salve was spurting the fuck out on me, but he doesn't even understand, like, the jump range. Like, okay, so the jump range on Holy Wrath is like 5 yards, right? You can't jump that far. That's not how it works. Like, if you watch the speedruns, they'll do 2 people here, 2 people here, 2 people here, and they stand in range, and it's impossible. Like, with just correct spacing, the way it always gets griefed is some fucking caster is like 3 yards too close, right? And then he beams and it chains behind. But if it... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It pulls threat, or he's too close. One of the two. But the point is he stands within 5 yards of his buddies, and that's how he griefs them. Not like here, like, 10, 15, 20 yards. And then Spider was all fine. The only thing was Naxxramas. I'll say I didn't fully kind of compensate for how much damage Naxxramas would be doing, how much kill power we'd have, things like that. And so we wiped once. I made a very small change to my itemization, and then we killed it without even having to use shield wall. So it was nothing to break down or analyze there. We did a really good job. Here, just to remind you all the mechanics, is these need to be faced away. They do a frontal volley. So you want to make sure you always turn them away. And then casters, you want to stack on the ass so you're not getting hit by that volley. And then when the dude charges the hunter, you're not, back here getting hit. So get in close, but be behind the mob. That's the key. In close, but behind the mob. And then this fight went well. What up? Yeah, like Surgers, exactly. The big dude that charges, he'll charge, but unlike the horses in the stable area where the charge is a threat drop, the spiders, they do not threat drop when they charge. They'll come back to the tank. And this went well. We killed it pre-Locust with no world buffs. Again, impressive stuff. All this went totally fine. If you're a caster, just please don't kill yourself doing some dumb shit, AoEing too early without AoE taunt up. Bringing 6 mages this week instead of 3, so we'll have plenty of kill power on skitters, and we'll have plenty of decurses and all that good stuff. Did someone want to chime in? Totally. Yeah, that was awful. I won't get that fixed. It's unfortunate we did have 5 on the roster and 2 called out last minute, but doing a little bit more. It was Easter weekend, and I'm also like double and triple checking with people to ensure we don't get put in that position again. So that's one thing I learned, is that, Nax has some very specific mechanics where you can't just say like, oh, we'll just bring someone else. Like, if you have a mage call out, you need another mage. You can't just bring a warlock. They have different toolkits, different utility that they provide. So I've got to be a little bit more strict with my composition of the raid when getting fillers. The priest here did a fantastic job. Just want to remind you all of the positioning. I'm going to run in the middle. I'm going to tank Fairlena here. If Rain of Fire's on the melee, I'm going to run here. If Rain of Fire's on melee, I'm going to run back to the original spot. And we're just going back and forth between these 2 spots is all. As a priest, what you want to do is you always want to stand off to the side here on either side, because as the mobs kind of converge on the tank like this, they're going to do their AoE silence. So you want to be kind of off center. If you're standing here in the middle of the room and they come in like this, you will get silenced here. So just get kind of offset here on the sides so you don't get hit by that silence. And then other than that, this was really easy, really straightforward fight. We didn't have any deaths. We didn't have any enrages. There's the silence though, you'll see. So the advantage of being kind of offset here or here, you wouldn't have got hit by that. And then we get a Rain of Fire. We just move it slightly to here. And we one-shot it. No deaths. So that was a very good boss fight. All this stuff, it's the same shit with the spiders. Just turn them away. Stack on the ass. The ghouls. Clump up, cleave, dense, holy water, all that good stuff. Disarm. And stun around 40% and lower. Again, just want to remind you all too of like what we realized ended up being very helpful is here, like when we're fighting these acolytes here up against the wall, if healers just stand back here and heal from back here, you won't get hit by the arcane explosion. And so it reduces the damage we take pretty significantly. And with the spiders, if we stand right here on the edge of the slime, we can't avoid them. I think we cleared them just to be safe, but in the future we might skip those, and you can do so by standing just right on the edge of that slime. So we'll skip forward because we have reviewed most of this stuff already, and I just want to show here's where we tested some of the positioning and we took a lot less damage, so that'll help us keep up good pace by just reducing damage, reducing mana expenditure, things like that. Moving forward into this one, we body pulled the Shade, but it's totally fine. He's got a huge aggro radius, so that's going to happen. It just needs to be taunted and turned away, which Sunny did. He did a very good job here. So we're kind of getting in our groove here, picking up some confidence, and here's just a good example, right? See, the healers are back here, and now look at the damage here. Like, we're taking no damage at all. When in some raids, you'll see they'll go into acolytes, and the raid almost wipes. Like, the whole raid is almost dead after an acolyte pull. Meanwhile, we're super healthy here. So just want to keep emphasizing, like, positioning in an axe is so important. Whether you're not taking damage from spells, whether you're trimmering fears, the list goes on and on. It's all about positioning. Again, small itemization thing we changed up here, and our kill power being low, those two things really hurt us. So we made that adjustment, and then we come back in and we one-shot it. And we had what? I think it was 2 deaths, people on the wall that we just decided to ignore, and rightfully so, in favor of burning the boss. So unfortunate, but sometimes it's got to be the strat you take when you're in this type of position with no world buffs and stuff. And then Seth, I don't want to overanalyze these non-world buff attempts because we did that in the moment. We learned, obviously, you don't stand like back here. That puts the ice block here, and then people have to stand in the snow because that's how you get everyone killed. Dodge the blizzard, take advantage of this space here. Take advantage. Don't be back here. Obviously, just be in close. And then I'll just fast forward here to our. Took forever to rebuff because we were getting griefed by Drex. Feels good. But yeah, I mean, our kill attempt here is that. Like, we're taking no damage at all. It was absolutely flawless execution. Just, like, this positioning is really good. This guy's too far, right? He needs to come in. This guy, too far. Needs to come in. Like, he could have been here. So, just know that. I don't know if that's any of you all, but not pointing the finger. Just don't put a block out in Africa here. Try to get in close. But you obviously still need to be mindful of the 10-yard range. So I'm trying to get everyone consolidated, close, clumped up, but the 10-yard range is still absolutely critical. Do not be too close to someone in the effort to try to stack up. And then Bell died to a frost bomb. I've already thoroughly roasted him, so I'm not going to dwell on that. And then Daddy died to the frost breath as well, so we only had 2 deaths. It was Daddy and Bell on this whole fight, and they were both the frost breath. So just better positioning, moving to identifying a close block early and start inching towards it if needed. And then we killed him. Those were our only 2 deaths. So really good job there. And then KT, you know, KT is a little bit of an RNG fest, unfortunately, because of how the mechanics work. So on KT, if you guys don't know, Results has this really, really fantastic weak aura here for KT abilities. And what it does is what you'll see here is there are all his abilities and their cooldown. And so then what happens is now these are open. He can cast chains, he can cast a void zone, and then coming up here, he can soon cast some other abilities. But what you'll see, here's this cool thing, right? He just casted a void zone right here. You can see it behind me. And when he picked void zone to cast, it actually put chains on a 4-second cooldown. So what he does is he has abilities and they have windows, and when those windows open up, he can cast it. But if he picks a spell to cast, it puts some of his other abilities on an internal cooldown. So in this case, he could have casted Chains, Mind Control that is, or he could have casted Void Zone. He picked Void Zone, so now Chains it can't be cast for a little bit. You'll see once again, we get 4 abilities in window. In this case, he picks Frost Blast. It's 29-second cooldown, but look what it did. It put AoE Frostbolt, it put Mind Control, and it put Void Zone, all on a 5-second cooldown. Chains goes out, and those are still on CD. It goes on the Druid. And the only thing to see here is got a couple people that are dead already, and I just want to show you how this happens. So the only thing really to know on this fight, outside of what you already know, Mind Control, Frostbolt, blah, blah, you know, if you're a melee DPS, and even mages kick, everyone else has their respective jobs and assignments. Healers are healing the priests and druids are more so focused on the tanks, whereas the shamans are taking care of all melee DPS, and especially those that are hit by the Frost Blast. And then as a melee DPS, your focus and your concerns are interrupting is priority number 1, because if you don't interrupt, the tank gets one shot. And then your other priority, outside of, you know, positioning, of course, is going to be responding appropriately to chains. So what happens here is Mind Control goes out, right? When this goes out, it is a complete threat wipe, complete threat reset. And so what you need to do as a DPS warrior, as a rogue, all DPS players, you need to hit escape and stop attacking. And that will allow Bell to pick up the boss on this threat drop. So what happens here is Stevie Ray just keeps absolutely blasting into KT in Zerk stance, gets aggro, and then there's 1 hit and there's 2 hits, dies almost immediately. So this is, if you're a melee DPS and you die on KT, it's almost always that right there. There's a threat wipe with chains, you keep attacking, and you out-threat the off-tank, and you die. So just anytime chains go out, and you don't have to look at a timer either. The best way to see if chains go out is if a bunch of people just get real fucking big around you, like this, right? You'll instantly know, oh shit, that's chains. It's Mind Control, and then you hit escape. So just need a little bit quicker reaction speed there from our boys. And then how does... Go ahead. Certainly. Yeah, when chains windows open like this, I'm holding my BT and my rage and stuff like that. And then if it uses another ability, then I'll usually get greedy and I'll just cast BT. Like if it puts it on CD for, you know, temporarily. I just want to see how this Zagroff guy dies, because I'm curious. Oh, did he? Okay. Oh yeah, there he is right there. I just didn't get a heal. Unfortunate. Alright, moving on. And so the rest of this fight, I mean, goes pretty well. I think Rorschach died to, like, it might have been a Void Zone. anyways, just individual mistakes at this point, like with the exception being Zagraf, he should have got healed, but like Stevie Ray and Rorschach, that both their deaths are on them. And then we get to KT, and we're pretty deep into the fight here. I don't have visibility of his health, but he's got to be 20% or less. And at this point too, I just want to say, if KT gets moved out of position, we don't have to be like so focused on dragging it back, because you'll see Frost Blast windows open, so you don't want to move them. Just readjust. You know, like everyone is kind of repositioned around here. That's totally good. That's fine. Get a Frost Blast here right at the end, and we lose Sunny, it looks like, but he was the only one to die from that, so I think the healers were doing a pretty good job. And there's not a whole lot else to review. I mean, this is another situation where this part of the fight gets real fucking sketch, all based on the RNG of this, and also on like Frost Blast and things like that, but having world buffs too. If you don't have world buffs and you get to this point, what's going to happen is the kill's going to take longer at the end, so that means more Guardians are going to come out. And the last bit of the fight is so fucking crazy that you really just want to end it as fast as possible. And the faster you end it, the less spells he casts, the less Guardians that come out, the less everything. So ours drags on a bit because we lost people along the way, and we don't have world buffs. We didn't have our extra Zanza pot on a lot of people because they had died. But we kill it, and that's it. That is everything I had. I mean, outside of that, we have, like I said, I've adjusted the comp here, so we're not going to have any random fears on our Druid. We're going to have the Blood Pact. We're going to do evens right, odds left. When we get to Gothic, we're going to have evens are going to go dead, odds are going to go live, and then when we get to Sapphiron, we're going to do 1 through 4 right, and 5 through 8 left. And the beauty of this is, once again, we don't have to change the groups, and you'll see 1 decurse, 2 decurse, 3 decurse, 4 decurse. That's right side. Left side, 1 decurse, 2 decurse, 3 decurse, 4 decurse. So we have 4 decurses right, 4 decurses left. And so with the way the groups are organized here, we will never have to move the groups, and the assignments are going to be super fucking straightforward, super easy. No confusion, no blue run through, none of that. And so a lot of those problems are just already immediately fixed on the way the groups have been reorganized. So, I'm going to stop talking for a bit. Does anyone have any questions, comments, feedback, anything? If not, no pressure. Totally fine. The Druid's going to kite him again. I don't know. I still need to connect with him. When I'm doing my healer meeting with the priest, I'm going to pull the Druid in and talk to him about that to understand what went wrong, and we'll get it corrected. But basically, as we're all running down the tunnel, right here, so right here, no one's healing at all except the Druid. The Druid is blanketing hots on everyone that's not clicking them off. So like all the caster DPS and other healers are getting rejuves from the Druid. And then we drop... What? No, he's not. No, it was Bluella. So Bluella is running through, he's blanketing everyone with hots, that's not clicking them off, and then we drop, you want to take the fall damage, because that's more for him to heal, and then from there, he's able to get healing threat, and then he should be using cat form sprint. Ideally, he's using other items like rocket boots, nifties, things like that. I'm not an expert on it, because I haven't done it myself. I just know that the Druid gets threat through hots from tunnel damage plus fall damage, and then he chains through a bunch of different speed items, and then the shamans will drop some earth binds as needed if they see, a clump of zombies coming through and you're like a caster shaman, like a Loud or someone like that. Drop an earth bind to help them out. You can also drop a frost nova if you're a mage and you see a big clump of zombies walking through. Feel free to hit them with a rank 1 nova. Shouldn't get threat on you, and it should just help the druid buy a little bit of time. And then from there, it's just a matter of killing the boss really fucking fast. Kill everything. The only thing as a caster on Gothic Live side is you need to counterspell this rider in the middle. So the rider will always spawn right here, and he does a shadow bolt. Yeah, and it fucks. Like, that shadow bolt's gonna one-shot someone if you don't CS it. Yeah, we just kind of, the shackles more play it by ear based on the damage going out. Yeah, those are some good points, totally. And then Daddy was also mentioning something about Gluth as well, so appreciate that feedback. All right, anything else that we want to discuss, go back to? Yeah, it should be, because we really want the mages to keep rolling the Ignite. And it should also be like the people going over to heal them should mostly be shamans too. The only other thing from a shaman perspective is think about is like, don't just like, if you have gear options, don't just wear your 2.5 the entire fucking raid. Like, if we're going to do Lothab, you're just pressing the heal button on the main tank. So your set should be itemized around maximum plus healing, not these shitty pieces of tier gear that don't have good healing. Similarly, like if you're doing Lothab, right? Or not Lothab, Naxxramas. Naxxramas is just hitting the tank the whole time. And when it's not hitting the tank, it's hitting someone on the wall in a cocoon, all of which are single target healing scenarios. So try to think a little bit more about, am I single target healing or am I getting value out of chain heal? And then itemize around those different situations as opposed to just wearing the same set of gear for the entire raid. Like Farlina is a situation where there's rain of fire damage and there's a lot of AoE damage, so I think you get pretty good value out of like chain healing. But then, obviously that changes a lot whenever you get over to Naxxramas. So just be a little bit more fluid with like itemization is all. Ignore it. We killed it last week without world buffs on the whole raid without a teleport. So I don't see any situation now or moving forward where we have to dance. So if you get ported, you just stand on the other side and you wait for us to finish the boss. Those are good questions, though. Yeah, definitely better to ask than assume and that not work out for us.